Alright, AGS1. We've reached the end. What a long, strange trip it's been. Mod 9 closure today. We're just going to talk about our stats unit and everything you could expect from an assessment on the Mod 9 closure. Or from Mod 9. So the first things we started out with mean, median, mode, and a little bit of range. Remember, mean is like the average. Median is the exact middle. We use mostly the cross off from the ends method. The mode is the data that occurs the most, and the range is the top minus the bottom. Another way to say that is the max minus the min. It's how far the data ranges. In the beginning of the unit, we started talking about different visual representations of data. So the main words that we started using were box plots and histograms. Now, for a box plot, you need a 5-number summary. The 5-number summary is the min, the max, the lower quartile, which is also called Q1, and the upper quartile, which I forgot to label, which is sometimes called Q3. This also, of course, needs the median. Those are the 5 numbers: min, max, lower quartile, upper quartile, median. If you have all 5 of those, you can create a box plot, which is also called a box and whisker, which essentially separates the data into quartiles. Next up, histograms. Remember, histograms are kind of like a bar graph, except that they have no gaps in between them. They have continuous data, is another way to say that. You always, with a histogram, want to split up your data into class intervals. This is where it sometimes can be up to you about how many intervals to use. Remember, the general rule is that you should have somewhere between 4 and 8 intervals for this. We also learned some vocab words about describing the shape of a histogram. Uniform is when it's pretty flat. Unimodal, which means there's only one mode, that there's only one highest bar. Remember, skewed right and skewed left are definitely the opposite of the way you want them to be. It's about which side has the longest tail. So if the data is sort of pushed to the left, that's called skewed right, and if it's pushed to the right, that's called skewed left. Bimodal is when you have 2 modes, 2 tallest bars as the, modes. Sometimes from a histogram, you can spot an outlier that's far away from the curve. We did learn formal ways to find outliers by finding the upper bound, which is Q3 plus 1.5 times the inner quartile range, and the lower bound, which is Q1 minus the 1.5 times the IQR, inner quartile range. The thing we ended with in this unit is two-way tables. Remember, two-way tables, I think we mostly did 2x2s. I guess there could be more. Yeah, I guess maybe in like the formatives, some of them were bigger, but they're usually like, looking at someone's age and whether or not they send a certain amount of text or something like that. One of the biggest skills of those two-way tables is finding the totals for every column and row. Those are going to be very useful for answering questions about the two-way table. We also looked at percentages in a lot of different ways. First, we looked at the conditional row percentages, which is just looking at the rows and taking percents out of the totals, like treating them as separate problems. Then we sort of did the same thing with relative column percentages, where you just look at the columns and find percentages for each little aspect, but just out of the total of the column. Then we did a relative percentage to the whole table, where you take all the total pieces of data as your total, and then find each individual percentage. Okay, you guys, that's about it I have for mod closure. Good luck on the assessment.